Welcome to April. It's a wrap-up video, folks, and I'm here to share all of my April highlights with you. I absolutely love doing these wrap-up videos. It's a really great way to stay accountable with myself and what I did with the month, but also an excellent way to reflect on all the positive things in a month because, as we know, things can feel very overwhelming very quickly. And it's easier for our brains to latch onto those negative aspects in our day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month. And I just really find these videos rather relaxing for myself. And I love chatting all things practice and life with you in these. So we will be getting into my monthly animal gnosis practice, my monthly tarot journal practice, any extra goodies that I may have included in the month that makes sense to share with you here in this space. And I think I'm going to start doing a showcase of deck pairings in these monthly videos like I did last month. I thought that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. I also just do that as a part of my practice in the month. Like I just play with decks, I just play with pairings. I mess around practicing with readings, seeing where I can take the cards or not. I mean, there's always some fails in there. So we're going to look at some really fun deck pairings. New decks I got. It's a light month, you guys, but there's still some beautiful decks to look at. And then we will wrap up with books. One I purchased, two I read, well, one I started reading. Anyways, the usual. Let's just jump right into it. With the most precious thing on this desk right now is this crystal, this garden quartz sphere. I got this month. I have a space on my reading table. It has a great little like shelf that works for a altar space. So I got this brass candle holder for my husband and I took it over. And I realized a sphere would fit so perfectly in like not only the candle holder, but in the space I had on one side of that altar that I just never have really finished out. So I apologize about the reflection. Obviously, I am filming in front of a window here for the best lighting, but this one is just gorgeous with its mineral inclusions. It's got this really awesome half and half. It's just great. And it's funny because my husband and I walked all through the store, looked at every display case and every sphere in those display cases. The store has a massive selection. And I pointed this one out, but by the time we got back to the front door and checked everything out, I was like, we can just leave. I don't know. Like, I was just feeling rather like indecisive, and not one instantly just was like, you must take me home. You know how that goes sometimes. He was like, well, what about that one you pointed out over there? I really like that one. I'm like, okay, let's go look at it. So we had the gal open the display case and check it out. And she told us a little bit about it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's the one. So it's the one. And I'm so excited. It looks so gorgeous. Another really great thing about April was my Kickstarter is in full on production. So that's really great to just have that project, two projects really, in the hands of the factory. And I am just playing the waiting game now. Of course, answering emails, approving videos, pictures, all of that. Hopefully I can actually get in a mini Kickstarter update with some of the photos and video I've received. I'm just waiting to gather all of that together, and then hopefully I can share that with everyone because it's very cool to see. Another really great thing about April was I did a live question and answer with Tegan over at Animals and Arcana on her Patreon page, and that was so much fun. She had a whole list of questions that people submitted, and then ones that were asked in the chat, and of course ones that Tegan was really great about hosting and piggybacking off of the questions and building the discussion with more questions. And it was a really lively and energetic and fun and hopefully entertaining 2 hours. I had a blast. I am an open book. I love sharing what I know. I love talking shop, and it was a good time. So if you watched, if you were there with us, thank you so much for joining. And since we're talking about Animals and Arcana and her beautiful offerings, let's just get right into my animal gnosis. It's a little bit of an extra chatty opening this month. I did just kind of have those updates I really wanted to share. Animal gnosis is a practice, if you're not familiar, that Tegan puts together every month. It is a gorgeous write-up mixing personal gnosis with research of folklore and animal behavioral and scientific aspects of the animal wrapped into some more therapeutic leanings. It's an open invitation to invite that animal into your space, into your practice for that month. And it may look totally different than what I do. This is a part of what I do for the month. I love pulling monthly cards for the animal gnosis, displaying it on my altar, and just taking in that animal's story, their energy, their message, their lesson. And sometimes I apply that directly to readings I do for myself that month. Sometimes it's just something I keep in the back of my mind. And it's just a nice little like ping in my mind when I am reminded of that current animal for the month. It's a very mundane, everyday interaction and process for me. But my favorite part to do for the month with the animal gnosis is to curate my card selection for my altar space. And it was funny because I had to have looked through all of my animal oracle decks. I prefer to put oracle decks out for this practice in this space. It just makes the most sense to me. I prefer not to include the tarot layer into the cards I display on my altar just because I feel like the tarot meanings just take it a different way, and that's fine. But when I just want to focus on the animal itself, I don't want that extra layer, which is why I prefer oracle cards for this. Well, anyway, so I was like, dang it, I don't have a cormorant. I haven't even said what the animal was yet. The animal of the month was cormorant. Well, anyways, so Tegan had her write-up, and I think she talked about, or maybe it was in the note she sent me, ravens of the sea, or maybe I saw that online somewhere. So because I didn't have a cormorant card, I found this later after the fact when I was filming another video that I had switched the Witch's Wisdom Tarot into an oracle deck, and here we go. We have our lovely bird friend that is Traveler of the Sea and the Sky, which is something that's really cool about them, and the idea of a threshold with them, which is where I took these 3 cards in a more like story visual narrative representation for the animal, since I thought I didn't have the actual card of the animal. And I thought this was so beautiful because we talk about the sea element here with this compass. I absolutely adore that we have this blue ribbon with the key, and then we have the ribbon over here in the threads of fate, and this beautiful knowing card that feels sandy but mountainy but foresty, like this very in-between space. And I thought these 3 were beautiful together. And then of course, when I found the 4th card, it was just perfection. So I absolutely loved keeping this in mind this month. I loved looking at these cards and being reminded of the animal through this narrative that I built. It's just a very uplifting practice that also plants animal information in your mind. It's one of those things where it's like a long-term thing where you just chip away at it. The more you practice thinking about an animal, reading about an animal, engaging with an animal, the more that information cements in your mind. So let me just show you my journal, which has the animal gnosis section. So here we go. I pulled the keywords directly from the cards. So I wrote down passage, knowing, and fortitude. Okay, I took it a little bit in my own direction there on the 3rd word, but that's kind of how I do it. Love the animal. Now let's hop into my actual tarot journal practice. For this month, I use Seed and Sickle for my monthly daily pulls here, and this is just such a rock solid deck. Really enjoy it. I will say that using it for a month every day, and I read both guidebooks every day with every pull, that I feel the idea of these 2 guidebooks is really cool and clever, but in actual reality and the way that it played out almost feels burdensome. Like the concept was weighing down the writing. This could have easily been one book. Some entries have almost identical write-up and information, so it felt tedious. It felt tedious to use, and I don't have the in-depth and accessible plant knowledge to just pull from the top of my mind, which is why I use this deck to, like I was just saying before, chipping away at information. I know myself and that I just can't sit down and do a full-blown hardcore study session for a dedicated amount of time and only studying that and practicing that to focus on plants. It doesn't work for me. I need this very easygoing insertion into my day. Like everything has to just fit into my natural routine in my day and what I'm already going to do for it to stick with me. So this is a way for me to bring on new information on board in my brain. So the guidebooks were just, like I said, they just felt cumbersome at the end for me. The idea is brilliant. It really needed to be like blown out into like a much bigger in-depth writing and book style. Like it just needed to be its own thing. Just doing a single guidebook for this deck and just really focusing on one strong entry and one strong direction for that would have been totally serviceable and great. Instead, I'm a little on these. That's okay though. Still love the deck. Still loved my month with it. That was just some notable engagement I had with some feedback. I just love the artwork. It goes with so many decks I have. I've had this for years now, and it's just, like I said, it's like a super solid deck. But now that we've heard my little tangent on that, let's check out my spreads because that's always fun. I have so much fun in these spreads. Once again, if you're new and haven't heard about my journal and my tarot practice, this is a Happy Planner skinny classic. I'm not sure if they make the skinny size anymore, but you can easily find them secondhand on like Mercari or eBay, Poshmark, anything like that. And I just love the very approachable and like low energy and effort that this requires for me. I pre-decorate all these spreads the month, well, I was going to say the month before, but like literally it's the day before the month rolls in, the new month rolls in, like that weekend before. Sometimes I skip a few days and do it into the first week of the new month. But regardless, before I start writing my entries, I pre-decorate because if I have to decorate and do my poll and do my writing, I just won't do it. I just use stickers and washi tape that I already have. I don't go for a certain aesthetic. I just go for a creative, artsy aesthetic. I just have fun. What was great about this month was, one, I got to practice my plant knowledge. I got to use some more stickers. Like these stickers are from Dollar Tree. Like I'm really not being overly precious or special about this. I white out this undated planner. So yes, you can see the whiteout, but like this is something that's just like casual and beneficial to me and not something that's meant to feel like a chore. I've used these stickers and this washi tape together probably 2 other times in earlier parts of the book. Who cares? Still need to use the stickers up. This one, I didn't love the way it turned out, but I kind of pulled it together with the colors a little bit. It's a little, it's okay. It's cute still. And these stickers are really great. These stickers are from Earth and Omen, and I really loved the antique office, like stationery vibe of them. They're just so fun that it looked very classy in this spread. What I really enjoyed this month was, one, yes, what I said about the guidebooks feeling cumbersome still holds true, but I still pulled information from that. The front of the guidebooks also have those really great charts, and it has the plant with some quick keywords, which I felt was really helpful to go off of for my writing. So I would read each entry in the books, check the little chart with the keywords, and then basically just write something based off of that. It's to familiarize myself with the guidebook, familiarize myself with the cards, and just to have like a starting point. So it's basically the way I write. It's kind of how I would write a guidebook. Some kind of shift here and there, but like I said, I'm not necessarily asking questions or anything personal like related to myself. It's more of just like, this is a mini deck study. This is a way to get to know a deck, take the time to read a guidebook. I don't always do it every month, as you may know. Just depends on what the deck is. But yeah, it's just a really simple way to incorporate a daily card practice, a daily journal practice, and to get to know a deck and do this very like low energy deck study. And then for my weekly oracle polls, I use the Kantigi Oracle. Oh my gosh, can I just say how much I love this deck? This was a deck when it came out I wasn't that interested in. One, I think it felt like really overwhelming with how in-depth the guidebook is. And I just didn't quite understand it. I felt like it was being something that maybe I wasn't interested in. Now that I actually have this deck, I love the phrases. They're so clever. They're hilarious. They're kooky. They're creative. The book is fabulous. Okay, but the thing is with the book, you can't read all those entries for your one card in the book. What I did was I read this intro, which is basically like a storytelling narrative. I read the keynotes. And sometimes I would just leave it at that. Sometimes I would go into the symbolism, and sometimes I would go into the guidance. It really just depended on, what kind of time frame and mood I was in while I was doing this. But like the icon, the portal, the practice, I skimmed through these, and the creative prompts, ecological connection. I mean, there's just so much, right? But all of that rest of that like second half of stuff, I just disregarded. I skimmed over some of it just to kind of get a feel. I feel like it's great. It's just a lot, right? So I feel like the best advice is to just use this as an oracle, as is. Take in what layers you want to take in from the guidebook, but like keep it really simple. I feel like the phrases and the artwork are already enough to go off of, but even just reading that first section in the italic font that is more of a storytelling narrative, just even reading that is enough. It's so good. I know the size is large. It makes for a great display card, or maybe a card on your altar. A study card if you wanted to do a deck study, but I used it for the weekly oracle, and I pulled 4 fabulous cards. I enjoyed reading the guidebook each time. Super quick write-up. I mean, 1 sentence really. But that's okay because I already had read the guidebook. I don't need to regurgitate the guidebook in here. It's more of just a note to remind myself what that card was. I really like it. I'm pleasantly surprised. I just love that about decks, how ones come and go, you thought you would never have, but then there you are loving it, that's like me with this. Let's talk new decks. The best part, right? Okay, I've had this one on my dang wish list forever. Super, super excited to order it. But you know what? I don't think it's for me. And I was bummed. I was so bummed because I was so excited about this deck, and I think there's so much good about it. However, I can't get past some of just the art of it and the art fundamentals that I wish were pushed a little more. I think this is a great deck though, because we don't really have any decks in this theme. And second of all, this deck pairs fabulously with the French edition of Tell Me You Love Me Oracle. Oh my gosh, it is so perfect. I almost was like, I just have to keep this deck just to pair with that Oracle because it goes so perfectly. I was getting the most amazing readings for the two. Ugh. So I really kind of hum and hawed over this deck about keeping it or not. As you can see, it's mixed up, and I've been trying to not play with my new decks that I get in until after I do these wrap-up videos, and then I'll start incorporating them into my deck collection. So I was really trying to give it a good try. I really was. And I think there's so much gorgeousness about it. I think what I'm having the hardest part with is the use of scale and the use of the composition, the use of the size of the card. There's a fight for hierarchy that feels jarring to me. A lot of empty upper space, and while there may be things taking use in there, like a lot of sky elements, here's a sky element, but then look how small the figure is. So the scale, the visual hierarchy was off for me. And I just really couldn't get past it. I mean, we've got this whole half of the card that's just drapes and a top of a throne. This can get scaled up, easily can be incorporated with a over-the-top maximalist border still. There is just potential to push this even further. The size of the frames, like I think the idea of is super clever with like a positive, negative, depending on the side. But they're too small. Some paintings are just impossible to see. And yes, I wear glasses, but I still think they're too small. I think if this is like a main feature, it needed to be bigger and more like anchored in with the title. I'm not sure. Like I said, I still think there's so much good about this, so please don't take this as me not liking the deck or thinking it's poorly, like any of that. I still think it's a really great addition to the deck library that we all have available to us. Is incredible. This is just me giving professional design and art feedback and why, sadly, it is going to get sent back for me. I love that everyone is feeling super excited and happy about this deck. I was too. There's so many gorgeous details, so many gorgeous layers. Like, this is a better use of scale here. Still would have liked to seen it bigger. Like, these are choices that we can make. Like, do legs and feet matter? Sometimes. I know it's also in a certain art style. I know. This is just me talking as a creative director, as a graphic designer, and as a collage artist. So it's going to be a tough one for me to get over anyways. We've got this tangent here of the top of the frame with the top of the border. It just creates this awkward tension. She could have been so much bigger. The birds are so small. The butterflies are small. What is the main subject matter here? I think is where it kind of lost its way. Like, what is the focal point? Because not everything could be the focal point. We do need our eyes to land on something. Let's scale this up. Bring this down. Needless to say, I'm bummed because I was so excited about this deck and I still think it's gorgeous. And also, I just think this era, this style of artwork isn't necessarily 100% me as well. There's a lot that I do like about it. There's a lot I could have liked about it. And I think had that final design feedback and adjustments been made, I probably would keep this, regardless if the style of artwork isn't 100% one that I'm most attracted to. Those design fundamentals really hung me up. And it's just one of those things where you're a professional, you're deeply experienced in something, and you just can't help but not see things. You know, it's just kind of one of those like curses. But let's talk about this other deck I got in that I absolutely adore, the Ephemeral Tarot. This is artwork done purposefully, done with a high level of detail, done with a deep understanding of art and design. We have gorgeous use of composition and scale. Our eyes land on the main subject matter. And then we move to the secondary items in the visual hierarchy: moon, book, and then we move to the background. So we're comfortably moving through the layout, through the composition, through the imagery. Our eyes land on the lady. Then we move into the moth over her face, the earring, the crown, the flowers, the background. The titles are all done differently and in different places, so it feels very purposeful in its very crafty nature in the execution style of the titles. We have design elements, we have photographic elements, we have texture elements. It's a brilliant use of collage as art, and you can tell that the artist has a deep understanding and experience with art making. There's gorgeous use of different materials. We have some less layered cards and some more layered cards, but the balance of them, the use of materials, all go together because they're all purposefully placed and live as a family in this style. Here's a great example. We have imagery bleeding off the page that makes a more dynamic composition. We have these smaller elements that our eye then can move around the card, around the composition. We have leaves, the dandelions directing us this way, leading us back down because the figure is falling off the page. This is gorgeous work. Now, maybe the style isn't necessarily for you, but this is gorgeous art execution. This is what I look for in decks. Now, there's always times where there's always outliers to the rules, right? Like all the things I'm saying, I'm sure I have decks that don't do some of those things really well, but there's other things that they do really well and that work for me. Therefore, it has a purpose for me, right? This is also one of the reasons why I can be so particular about collage decks, because it has to be based on a foundation of art understanding. Once again, like I was saying, when you're a professional, when you're experienced, when you do something for a living, and then you also enjoy certain things in that arena, it's hard to kind of turn that off in your mind. And I just get so excited when I see well done, skillful art. And that doesn't mean anything. You literally could be self-taught and have amazing artwork that I think is skillful. I'm not saying you have to be properly trained or go to a proper school or like any of that. These are things I look for. And these are things that can hold me back from getting a deck, especially a collage deck. That's my arena. That's my genre. I'm going to be extra picky about that. And I am just super thrilled with how beautifully executed, how well the design and art is in this deck. I mean, you're making 78 pieces of artwork for these decks. I mean, that's mind-blowing alone. And then the fact that each one can be strong, they're all in this big family of artwork. So they all kind of push and lift and help others along and feel stronger. I love the cardstock on this as well. It's just really cute. It's really, really cute. I love that you can still tell the hand-done nature of the artwork, but it's not sloppy. It's still clean. It's still designy. There's clear visual hierarchy, strong use of composition, excellent use of colors and material, beautiful mixing of materials. It's just great. And the last deck that I got in, and if you saw my wish list video, you may have caught that this was on my wish list, and the fabulous Eldana at Element of Tarot. But her channel will be linked in the description box, of course, so please go over and subscribe to her channel. She puts beautiful videos together. She so generously offered to sell me this deck on my wish list. So thrilled to have this. If you listen to the last video, I won't repeat myself too much, but I was just kicking myself in the butt for not picking up this deck when I had the chance to. And it's just one of those things, you gotta put it out there, and sometimes something will work out for you. I absolutely love the color palette of this, the imagery, the fact that this was done prior to digital photography in a dark room with the negatives, and like superimposing these on each other, finding friends and models to do the photography in the first place. It's really, really cool. It's a historic deck, and it especially is as an artist as well. And I just think it's fabulous. I love the way the titles are done. Such a classy, clean font and size, and then the fact that it's nestled around the imagery, really balanced in the composition where it's placed, is super cool. Like, I think that's a really great touch, because sometimes when titles are placed in all different areas, it kind of bugs me. But once again, there's always outliers to the rule. Okay, let's get into the gorgeous, gorgeous pairings that I messed around with in April. The first one here is the Musings with the Hide Tarot, with the Common Oracle. These were really working for me. I love the monochromatic color palette here with the pops of the subtle reds and warm hues in the Musings. The Hide Tarot switches between really dark backgrounds, light backgrounds, more gray backgrounds. So it's a good mix of the in-between. And I feel like the art styles, while different, still really can speak to one another. Ever since I have picked up the Musings, I have always been looking for a pairing, and I don't know if I've necessarily found its perfect pairing in just oracle form, but it certainly works beautifully with the extra tarot and the oracle here. All three seem to speak really well with each other. I like the fact that the Hide Tarot, you could almost turn into an oracle deck if you wanted to take that route with the keywords. However, I feel like the keywords, the tarot title, and the artwork speak really well together, and that it does shine as a tarot deck. And I am just loving these three together so much. There's always so much information to just pull from the visuals between these three. Well, I guess the third deck isn't really visual heavy, but one hit of a keyword. Between the two tarots, I feel like there's definitely enough visual information to really pull and see where those patterns and repeated elements are shining through, what's really coming through, especially with the Musings being rather subtle, rather subdued in its visual representation. It's a very editorial deck. The Hide Tarot does have a bit more of that like hand done personal touch to it, almost sketchbook feel. So I feel like between the two, they really balance, and then the word deck just really ties everything together. The Tarot of the Magical Forest and the Secrets of the Mystic Grove are an unexpected pairing for me, I will say. Stylistically, they're rather different, but I think what brings them together is, one, the themes of nature and animals, and two, the color palettes. The color palettes do really pull in from one another. And then with the tarot, while heavily textured with this like gritty texture, the actual illustrations and what's the subject matter and what's shown is rather minimal compared to the oracle here that has very overly detailed, overly ornate illustrations. Here's an example of a really great color palette across them. We have these purples and these blues, these pinks, these kind of warmer tones pulling across all three cards. And once again, we have a same theme. And for me with deck pairings, as long as there's a couple boxes checked for what I look for and what works for me in deck pairings, then maybe one or two other aspects I can overlook, like the difference of art styles here. I wouldn't necessarily they go together stylistically, but the things I mentioned, they do go together and they read beautifully. The few practice readings I did with these two decks were really hitting home, especially the use of the basically 4 keywords in the Oracle deck. It gives you a lot to go off of in the tarot story. This is really great. We're getting the yellow pulled from a beehive up top here into the Pentacles and Wands card on the edges here. It really brings it together. The simpleness of the tarot are meeting the more delicate, busy of the Oracle art just really works for me. Like I said, it's unexpected, but like they were working. And I tried other decks with the tarot and it was like, yeah, it's okay. But this one was really singing to me in its readings, because when I do practice pairings, I do this setup or whatever spread setup. I do busier, more fuller spreads, but sometimes I just don't include those in videos because then I have to keep adjusting my camera to fit in like the larger space. And I also just don't have that much space to give and show like a full pulled out view of this massive like 3 tarot 2 oracle pairing spread, which is how I like to read. Go back and watch my patchwork pairings spreads video and I show that, and I show practice readings with that as well. But this is just a simple, good, quick fix way to check if pairings are working or if you're new to pairings. Like, start simple. This totally works for me. It also feels very spring summer. Like, it's leaning heavy summer for me, and I'm just like in that mood. I'm just in the vibe. I want the sun. We kind of looked at these two in my last wrap-up video, which I'm thinking, what month was it? March, when I brought these two decks in. But I did finally like actually play around with these two together, pairing, practice readings, and they are gorgeous together. And this is when I really realized I desperately wish I would have picked up the Tree Whisper Oracle, the Dream Travelers edition, because it would be a perfect addition to these. Anyways, these are great because we're using photography as the base of the artwork. The colors are muted, but still have like these pops of like bolder, more luscious colors. And there's a bunch of trinkets. There's a bunch of bits and bobs that are photographed as the artwork, and that is 100% right up my alley. Of course, we pulled the Sisu card. Fabulous. Thank you, Finnish Heritage, for always peeking your head up. Always a reminder. So anyways, this is the Spirit Carrier Oracle, if you haven't seen it around. And this is the Remembering This Sweet Fool Tarot, which is the pocket version. And I just adore these two. They're just really great. They're moody, but like don't feel dark and heavy, but I think you could take them that way, like if that's the kind of like mood you were looking for. But for me, it's the right amount of inquisitive heaviness, inquisitive darkness, abstraction. It's a way to really push what you're pulling from the artwork, because that is a huge part of the way I read. The images do matter to me. I don't strictly rely on the meanings of the tarot or the meanings that the Oracle book provides. It really is a full interpretation from me on all layers that I incorporate into that. So I love the way that the artwork is shown and edited. This Oracle also has like 80 cards. It's a ton. I haven't even fully digested all the keywords. I was just reading Own It and I was like, dang, that's a great statement for an Oracle card. And the fact that it has room, so if that's something you're interested in, this deck really kind of does it all for that. I totally gave up on my rune practice like years ago, but it is something one day like I would like to pick up again, but it's just not something pressing. Anyways, these are gorgeous. I love them. Such a strong pairing that I think can transverse seasons as well. If you're a seasonal kind of deck person and what kind of decks you use at the time of the year. While I wouldn't say I'm like overly seasonal, like the sun comes out, well, I'm kind of pulling brighter colored decks, you know? So like it's naturally already happening, but I feel like even though it can feel like those in-between seasons or a little fall or a little winter, I feel like it's a great in-between shift from winter into spring and even spring into summer. It meets those in the middle points. How freaking cute are these two together? I mean, first off, black, white, and gold sold. I love it. This is the Golden Black Cat Tarot and the Symbolic Soul Tarot. And what I love is that while this is such a cat-dominated deck, this Symbolic Soul Tarot has a lot of cat influences. There's a lot of fish, there's cat figures, there's a lot of other creatures, we've got a bird. It almost creates this bigger visual world between the two decks. It really takes this cat world into this very unknown, slightly sci-fi, spacey, otherworldly, a little kooky world. And I love it. These are two that I would probably add 1 or 2 more cards to a larger overall spread. And I may pull in some other color or two in a minimal way, but I think keeping it so limited in the color palette allows you to really focus in on each section, on each piece of the artwork, and see what you want to pull from there. Just like you don't have to take in all the keywords on an oracle card, like the last oracle deck we looked at. It had 4 keywords on 1 card. You only need to take 1 and call it good. You only need to take 1 piece of the imagery and call it good. Like, don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel obligated that you have to take in every aspect of every card in a spread, especially when you're in a larger one. I mean, if that's a part of it, then like go for it. But I feel like there's sometimes this like unset expectation of what it is you're required to include in your reading, in your interpretation. Do what works for you. Okay, finally pulled cards that show the cat and the fish. I'm like, I swear there is cats and fish in this deck. We have a cat with a double fish head hat, and we have a fish woman with a cat figure in the background. So it works. Once again, what boxes am I checking in this? Color palette? Check. Yeah, it's like a perfect match. And then theme. We have this critter as human theme, and they really work together. Last deck pairing that I tried out in April is the Floating World Tarot and the Inquire Within. What are we categorizing this deck as? I just call it an oracle deck. It's not really an affirmation deck. Is it just like a creative inspiration deck? Is it just an oracle deck? Like, where's the lines being drawn? I just call this an oracle deck. But I'm also like someone that will just call like everything not a tarot or not like a very set card system an oracle deck. Just, I keep it simple. I really loved the way that the bold colors, the bold illustrations of the floating world can really do the shining in the spread and allowing the black and white palette of the Inquire Within to let it be the second voice. It's kind of like tying these two together. I feel like I'm saying this with every deck pairing, but it was like every practice reading I was flipping through was just hitting. Like, I'm like, this couldn't be more right. This couldn't be more perfect. It was like one of those times where you're just like, this is so good. Oh my gosh, this is working. The way that this oracle deck was feeding into the tarot story, the tarot meanings, and then almost being that thread to combine them together was really putting these on like a star pairing. I'm like, these are so good together. I feel like the artwork is so specific in this tarot that it almost just overtakes no matter what pairing it's going to be with. And I kind of was battling like what was going to work with it, but this gave it just enough oomph, just enough more push to elevate the tarot. I feel like the tarot alone is fabulous. Like, this is a great tarot deck, absolutely underrated. I understand if the theme isn't for you, but it's a genuinely good mass market tarot deck. And it really allows the tarot to shine in this pairing. I love this so much that you will see in my next deck edit, you will see a few of these decks in there because that's just the kind of vibe I was doing. My deck test for April was kind of a small inclination of like where I was going to take my deck edit, my next one, because I've been sitting on the other one for a little bit and it's time to freshen that up. These two definitely had to be included. There was a previous one that we looked at that's also included. So you'll be seeing more of this soon. It is just a stunning pairing. Like, this, even though has a very kind of online girly doodle style to it, it almost acts as just a neutral because this style is so much more overpowering. And that this almost just becomes a neutral of nothing more than that. Instead of this being the star of the show and letting these doodles pop out and be the visual, impactful element between the two, it is very subdued and subtle, allowing this to do the heavy lifting visually. New book. I have all of the books by these two, author and illustrator, and this one just released like a week ago, and I am so excited. I want to just sit and read this so bad. Their books are fabulous. If you're looking for Finnish mythology information in English format, and that's reasonably priced, pick up all of their books. They are so well done. It's not just a summarized paragraph. You actually get sourced references from original Finnish material, obviously translated to English, but it's well done. It's thorough. It's information that's really hard to find, and I am just so excited. So these are the other ones that I have from these two. As you can see, a proper series of books, and I just love them. I just seriously, like, this has been such a stronghold for me. You may know I have built a bit of a Finnish mythology and folklore library for myself, and I continue to build upon that. It's something that's just a really special interest of mine, and it's something that also feeds into other areas that I work on, like my decks. And I like can't say it enough. So good. Thrilled to have this latest one in. Continuing on the Finnish mythology talk and books, 2 books that I read, well, this one I started to read, were these 2 this month. So Goddess of Light is the 4th book in the Finnish mythology series that I've been reading since like the beginning of this year. I only got through like 1 or 2 chapters of this month. It's the 4th book. It's the last book. I'm feeling a little over it. One, because I saw that the chapters switch POV every single chapter almost. And that's fine every once in a while, but I just find it really tedious. I just find it tiring. I liked the female main character from book 1 and 2 leading the story, leading the narrative, but switching in between these characters constantly. Book 3 did it in every chapter, and now it looks like book 4 does it, and I'm just tired of it. So this one's probably going to be a slow read for me. Book 1 I devoured like in 2 days. Book 2 read through super quick as well. And then book 3 was like pulling teeth. It just felt like a bridge to get from book 2 to book 4. It was like half the size as the other books as well. And then I kind of had a feeling, I may have mentioned this on my last video, it's like, I think I know what's going to happen in the end. But I'm chugging along. I'm getting through it. I have a couple other Finnish fun reads. So once I can get through this, then I can move on. And then this I did read. It is a graphic novel, and the artwork, the visuals lead the story, lead the narrative. It's gorgeous. And it's kind of sad, but that doesn't surprise me for it being Finnish. So it's based loosely on some different areas of folklore and mythology stories kind of put together in one bigger story. And while it's not super specific, if you're familiar with certain areas of Finnish mythology and folklore, you will pick up on it. So you can see there's not a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of visuals leading the story, which I find really cool because then every time you read this, you can get a slightly different interpretation, which I think is huge because, how often do you go back and read a book or read a graphic novel? Like, I don't know. I'm not someone who goes back and rereads things that frequently, if at all, but I feel like the way this was done, I would feel inclined to pick this up again in a different mood, if a different setting, in a different time period, and see where I take my interpretation versus the first time, because this was rather quick to get through. So it's something that would be interesting to see the way you find the ending or these certain other points of conflict. It's an old library book. I got it for super cheap on eBay. It's a really good one. It's a little sad. But if you're interested, and I would definitely say check it out, especially if you like the artwork style and if you're into all things Finn, definitely get it. Well, we made it through the end of my April wrap up, and I hope you enjoyed checking out all the decks that I showed in this one. I definitely am loving the pairings showcasing I'm doing now, I guess. I'm going to make it a thing. Monthly wrap-ups will have deck pairings if I genuinely did them that month. Let's just leave it at that. I don't want to hold myself to it every single month in case I do not get around to it, but it is something that I naturally do and naturally enjoy doing, and something I practice and play with my decks on a rather regular basis. So I'm going to make it a point to start including, because I think it's just really fun. I think it's a great way to use decks in our collection that don't always get the limelight, showcase new pairings, and also it introduces people to decks that maybe they haven't seen before, because I can tell you what, I still see decks in videos to this day that I've never seen. And I always find that kind of exciting, even if it isn't a deck I would necessarily get for myself. Just being like, ooh, I've never seen that before. Oh, cool. And you just kind of like stuff it in the library in your mind. I kind of like to offer that for people too. So it's a lot of fun for me. Love showing the decks and the books that I get in for the month, and just talking about all things monthly practice, because that's why I'm here. I love talking with you all about this because I don't really have anyone to talk about this in person. My husband and my mom listen to me, but they're not engaged or involved with it. My husband is artwork wise, and my mom will help me with anything I may need help with. In terms of me and my decks, my mom will help me pack and ship during Kickstarters and stuff like that. But she'll look at decks with me out in the store when we're shopping. But, that's kind of the extent of it with her. This actual like nitty gritty, things I like, things I don't, things I use, things I practice, like I don't really get that anywhere else except here. So thank you so much for being here with me and encouraging me to continue on. And your comments always mean so much, and to be able to engage in a dialogue with you in the comments and just talk tarot, talk decks, talk whatever it is you want to talk about, journaling, sketchbook, like I don't care, artwork, design, you name it. I love it. So thanks for being here with me for another one, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.